Okay, so before it cut, I was trying to explain something that if it were mutable, you'll be able to carry out this operation in line 58 and replace P directly like this instead of what we did in 54. Okay, if you could change it, but this will not work because you can't change list. Why can't you change it? It's immutable, not mutable. You cannot change. Okay, so I was saying later when we get to something like list is mutable, then you will see this operation similar to this will do something. But in this case, it will generate an error because it's a string. Remember, we knew what string was before today, but we are just trying to expatiate on string for us to understand it kind of like deeper a little bit. So you need to begin to know the properties like it is an iterable. You can iterate over it. You can index into it. You can pick the element by their index. You can, it's immutable. So you cannot change it once it's created. Yeah. At least those three kind of characteristics of strings, you should begin to like know them. Okay. So when we now go to looping, you can also loop through string. For instance, we are still dealing with ST2. Don't mind, I keep repeating it just because of visualization. The first time we had it defined here, but you notice that every time I keep copying and pasting it just for us to see. If not, defining it once is okay. But I'm just copying it and putting it again for us to see the string we are talking about. Okay. So when we want to loop, normal for loop kind of, right? We can iterate through it by saying for letter, or let's say for item in ST2. See? So print item. This way now, what we are just trying to say is for item, the first one will be J, the next item will be O, the next one will be H, the next one will be N. Do we get? Let's save it and try it again. Let me see. Okay, so if you notice, as I run this code, you can see line 58. We have the type error. String object does not support item assignment. The reason why it's saying this is because it's not mutable. Okay, like I said, it's to get an error. So I change it to a comment so it doesn't disturb us. Then we'll save it and run it again. So now we can see from line 62, all these ones, let's just forget about them. There are some things we already wrote up, but we did not change them to comment, so they are still printing out. But line 62 starts from here. For item in ST2, print item. So you can see it printed J, O, P, N. Why is it P? By line 54, we changed ST2 from John to JOPN. Okay. Do we get? You can even see it was printed JOPN here for line 56 before we then came to 62. But I'm just trying to show you that in for loop, you can do something like this. The same way you'll be doing it for I in range, and then the I will be numbers. But this time now, even you can call this instead of item, you can still call it I, it doesn't matter, right? Now, but this time it's going to contain the elements of the string J, O, P, N. And the reason why we can do this type of looping is because it's an iterable. Remember, an iterable, you can loop through it. You can iterate over it, looping through it, go one by one. That's what it means. So we could loop through that string and get the items one by one. That's why you can do a for loop like this. And another way you can arrange the for loop, you can say for maybe j in range, which is the normal one we know. But this time now, we can supply len st2. Len is used to get the length. Okay, len. If I bring it out of this for loop, so we'll see it again. And we'll put it here. So when you say len of a string, what you want to do is to get the length, how long it is, how many items are there. This will return, in this case, A, E, I, O, U, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will give us 5. Okay, this will return 5. So you can always get the length of a string using this function, len. Now, if you know the len is 5, you can still then fix it into the range. For I in range, len string, which is length of string, we now resolve, in this case, now John is 4, right? So this will be 4. Then you have 0, 1, 2, 3. And then if you want to print the elements like this, you can then say st2. You can print. And this time you do st2 and then index with j. So what this does is, the first time j will be 0, you print st2 index 0, the first element. The second time, j will be 1, and so on and so forth. So you'll be using indexing to, it's kind of the same, we'll get the same result as the first for loop. Okay, but this one now you're using the index to do it. But this one you're moving by the item. So those are ways we can loop through string. Now, again, when we talk of string, there are methods, string methods. There are certain methods that are available to us to use in string. Like, for instance, now we wanted to change H to P, and we perform all of these just to make that happen. Somebody will be saying, this is cumbersome. So every time I want to replace a string, I need to slice, concatenate, add, it's somehow tedious. And if you make a mistake in your numbers now, you might get the wrong answer. So somebody can say, this looks difficult. There are methods that can do the same operation in a simple way, which is like replace. Okay. So that replace now, string method, for instance, we could say st2. Okay, go ahead.
In that list that you need to find head and ground, can you show that I'm using my phone, I'm not using it. I thought when you're basically using this,
I can't hear you.
okay, you can't hear me.
You're low. Can anybody hear her?
The network is still bad.
I'm not hearing her.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
No,
Can you hear me?
Better now.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Is it audible now?
Yes, you're
Yeah.
audible.
Eh?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
You're audible.
Can I go ahead?
Please go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, okay. I was asking, in this list where you wanted us to find John, with this format 0:2, is 2 supposed to be included?
Who is writing on
Can
this?
you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
No, 2 is not included. Okay, I heard
Do you
you.
understand my question?
I heard you. Let me answer it. 2 is not included. Okay, so this is how it works. You know, in Python, we count from 0. So if I write it like this, so you see the number. So we have 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we're talking about index now. This is not a string. Let me not name this. Let me just put it like this. We're just trying to map the index. So J is 0, O is 1, H is 2. Now the idea was we wanted to replace H with P. So we started from 0, which is the beginning. And when we say 2, 2 is not included, so H will not be included. It will just do 0 and 1. 0 and 1 is J and O. It will not include the item in 2, which is H, in index 2. So even if you saw 0 to 2, it's not included. If it were to be included, you have 3 items, but because it's not included, you just have 2 items, the 0 index and the 1 index, which is J and O. Then we added P before we took the last element. I hope that's clear. Can you all see this red line?
Yes.
Who is doing it?
I'm even surprised. Yeah.
It's a Zoom thing.
Are you sure it's not from your end? Check, maybe you are writing it without noticing.
I actually saw when it happened, right? And I was not doing anything. Somebody was doing it from the person's own Zoom.
This is not the first time it happens.
But you're the one sharing your screen now. Can anybody write anything on your screen?
Okay, you can just try to write in your own Zoom and let's see if it will show.
I've just tried it. It's not working.
Yeah.
It's not working. It should be from your own end.
My own is working now.
See, someone else has done.
It's me that just wrote this one now. It's working. So it's not somebody that must have written that.
Yeah, somebody.
Okay.
Because I saw it the other day. I was wondering, when did I do this? But today, when this thing was happening,
and it's the person that wrote it that must clean it.
Yes. So please, whoever did it, to just clean it for us. I saw it today as it was coming.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to switch. So I don't know what came upon my. I was using my phone as I told them to drop my family. I said, let me just move. Something came up. You know, when you enter Zoom, that thing that we say, maybe recording in process. Got it. So yeah. I said, let me just move it. That's how this red line just came up. Let me see. How do I move it?
Use the pen icon. Use the pen icon beside your mic.
Okay. So
I just entered my laptop. Let me go back to my assets and remove it.
Okay. Why?
Gadgets are on at the same time. That's why.
So why he's trying to get it off the screen? The person that asked the question, I hope is clear. Let me stop sharing and share again. Maybe the thing will go. Great, so it's gone. Okay. Now, so that's it. That's it. The 2 is not included. Okay. Now, sometimes to make our learning faster, when you have that kind of question, it's also good to type along. When I say type along, you can just try it on your computer and see. Anything that comes to your mind, what if I do this? What if I make it 3? What if I make it? Just that exercise will make you to understand it better, because now you may be like, I understand it. And when you now start doing it, in fact, that is why the exercises are there. Because in the exercises, they'll ask you questions that will need you to apply some of these things to get the correct answer. Okay. So any person that does those exercises will learn more and any person too that is curious to be trying different things and say, okay, what if I make this number and start from this? You'll be printing different slicing of your list, for instance. That way it enters your memory more. So we are now talking about replace. So we have a method like this, replace replace what now? H, J-O-H. So we want to replace H with P. Okay. So if we follow our code now, here is H, but by the time we get to 54, instead of H, it is P, right? So if we want to bring it back to John, we can just say replace the P with H and run it. But remember, this will create a new string because you cannot change a string. It's immutable, you can't change it. So even though, because we are using the same name, st2 here and st2 here, it will seem as if we changed st2. But understand that you didn't actually change st2 in the computer memory. You only change the pointer. How do I do this now? Let me just use a PowerPoint to show us what I mean. So if I draw, let's say this is a container, right? The variable is pointing here. When you do some kind of operation like this, where we say st2 is equal to st2.replace, this will form something new. But the name of that new thing will still be st2, because if we come back here, let's say there's another container. This is a new container. Then V is this. After I perform the operation, I then point V here and clean this one, right? So you can see the referencing changes. It's pointing now to the new object, but the old object still exists somewhere in memory. The only thing is, like I said, Python has what is called the garbage collector that has this way of operating in the background of your computer. It will later delete this one so that your memory space would be recovered. Yeah, so this is it. So it's changing the pointer because it's still the same name. But just know that even though this is performing your replace for you, it looks simple, but it's still something like this. Okay, which this thing will go and do. This is a function that has been written. It's a method of string. Now, this is not the only method of string. There are several methods for our string. We can have dot lower. We have string dot lower. Maybe you can do st2. We put it in small letters, so you can say st2 dot upper. Oh, sorry. You can say st2 dot upper. But because this will create something new, you can't just say it on its own. You have to store it somewhere. If you call this, nothing will happen. So if I say st2 dot upper, it will change it to upper, but we did not store it anywhere, right? We will lose it again. It's like creating a new object, but we didn't create any name to point to it. So we created a new object. If after you do this, if you come back and say print st2, if you do this on line 73, and then you do this, you'll find out that it will still be lower letters because this does not change st2 itself. This created a new variable. If you want st2, if your intention was to make st2 change to upper, then you have to catch it back into ST2 like this. So you then change ST2 to point to the new object that was created, which is similar to what you are doing here in replace. If you run it without this part, it will create it, but it will not be referenced. No variable point to it. You just hang there. But when you catch it like this now, you can then store it. If you don't do it this way, ST2 will not change its original value. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's working like that because it's immutable. You can try it in your as you maybe go to the video you're studying. Just try it. See, it will not replace it. It will create something new. Most of the string methods function that way. Now, in our usual way, now we'll go to Google and type string methods in Python. So when you type it on Google, you can see. Hold on. Okay. So you can see different methods available to string in W3 schools. Okay. Let's go there. So Python string methods, you can see capitalize, converts the first character to uppercase. Casefold, convert string into lowercase. Okay. How does this compare with .lower? Where is lower? They have upper. Convert string into uppercase. And then where is lower? Convert a string into lowercase. This one. And casefold. Seem like they do the same thing. But let me just look into casefold like this. Because in W3 schools, you can still look more. And then let's just see, try it yourself. It changes everything to, it's almost like .lower. This casefold is just like .lower. Let's see. So you're not expected to cram all these things and know all of them in your head. Me, I don't even know all in my head, but be aware that they exist. Okay, there are common ones that I'm sure you would know with time, like count. When you want to count all the occurrence of a certain value in your string, maybe all the I in my string or all the space, you can call .count. If you want to see how to use it, if you click this, for instance, this is text, it's a string. Then x equal text.count apple. So you're going to count apple in this string and return the value and store it in X, then print it. Right? So this comes handy. That's why I'm taking us to Google to search for it. Whenever maybe you forget how to include a certain operation or forget a certain method, you can always just come here and just look at the way they just look at it. Okay, how do I implement it? How does it work? Click on it, you see. And there's one that is also very important is alpha. You can see there are many. All this one is super, is digits exactly. So now something like is digit can check if the string is a number, is numeric. So of course you can have a string. Of course you can have a string. You can have a string that is something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. This string is holding numeric characters, but they are not Python does not recognize them as numbers because they are in quotation mark, so it sees them as string. But with something like is digit, you can check this string if these things are digit. So like somebody now going through all the items in a string, for item in the string, print item, you can say for item in the string, you can check if each of the items is a digit. You can be checking by calling is digit method. There's also a method called is alpha. That is alpha, we check if it's alpha. You see this one also is numeric. Returns true if all characters in the string are numeric. Then this is digit if all characters are digit. Is alnum. Returns true if all characters in the string are alphanumeric. So all these methods, they all don't do the same thing. They all don't work in the same way. You can just look up the one you want to do, depending on the question that is asked you, right? And I think there should be an is alpha somewhere that can check if it's, yeah, this is alpha. You can check if it's an alphabet, checking through the string. So all these things, depending on what you're trying to do, you can use any of them. So these are methods that are available to us in string. Me personally, if I have an interview in Python, I always just in preparation, I'll just go Python string methods. I'll just look through. It's my own way somehow. When I look through, I just refresh myself. Oh, there's is digit. Oh, there are some, I don't know all, but some I'll just remember. And then I will come to other data structures in Python and just check, just peruse, look fast, not like I'll be looking at them one by one to remind myself so that if I'm in the interview and they tell me to do something, okay, and I know that I need to call a method, I remember, oh yeah, this method, instead of, because if I don't remember replace, my mind will now start telling me to do this type of thing. And when you're doing this type of thing now, it's now a little bit cumbersome, especially if you're dealing with a long string. And let's say somebody told you to replace all the I in a string like this. Strings are immutable. There are how many I's there? Like 2, or something that there are 3 or 4 in a string. They not tell you to replace it. You can't use this. Very cumbersome. You have to remember the method. So from time to time, we make reference to those methods. So you should know where they are and always check on them. Now we'll talk about the escape character. You know, strings in Python, S could be equal to, if I do this, it's allowed, single quotation. But if I want to say, I'm here, I'll need to do this. Right? So now you see the quotation mark is appearing 1, 2, 3. Already the ID is underlining because it's problematic. Okay. But what if I needed this apostrophe to be in my string? I can put the escape character. The escape character is just this guy. This is the escape character. So I can just put it. And instead of Python to see this one as what it normally is, because of the escape character, it will not interpret it the normal way to let it be. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes.
So get some special characters into your string and let Python not see them for what they are. You can use the escape character. If you remember again, there is new line. New line is just n, but like this, okay? Because if you don't put the escape character as normal n, when you put it like this, it will not be normal n again. Python will see it as new line. You get? So somebody may want to write, I can't go. But another way to avoid, like this one, another way to avoid something like that is just good practice. If you know you're going to have apostrophe, use this one. Let me say, I can't go. It works. Use double quotation. But if in your double quotation you wanted to quote somebody, he said, like he said, I know in quotation mark, you have to put it like this. I can't go. When you now put it like that, Python will now be confused. Then you can use escape character again to put it in. So that's how that works. So I don't know if anybody have any example, any question from this.
What I wanted to say, I encounter something like this. And there's this double quotation I use plus the single quotation. And it worked that way. I didn't know this other pattern. I just use, because I tried the normal way.
Yeah.
Just like you said, I'm here with the single quotation and the other quotation, and then it's the end single quotation also. But when I was struggling with it, I just, okay, let me try using double quotation for the two, then the inside one, then it worked that way. That's okay.
That's the safest way to do it. But sometimes you may think that you want to use double quotation and escape, like this one now where you want to quote somebody. Maybe you're writing a long text. At a point now, you need to quote the person. And let's say also apostrophe is inside, like this particular example, there's quotation, there's apostrophe. So if you use single, you still have single inside. If you use double, you still have double in your text. Then you must remember the escape character to use it. And one key thing in this dot lower, for instance, if I am asking the user to, how we used to take input, we can say input and then say, give me what is your name? Like this. If I'm asking the user this and I want to compare it with value already given, maybe name already inside my code is John, and I want to check if your name is John. Okay. One good way to do this comparison would be to make you lower and the name you're comparing lower. And the reason for that is when you say input, you're asking users to give an input. Somebody can go and give his own input like this. You just come and type, and you're trying to compare it with this John, right? But if you compare these two in Python, it will tell you they are not the same thing, because in Python, capital letter and small letter are not the same thing, right? Some other person might type it in another way, mix the cases. So anytime you're comparing text, it's always advisable that you change it after collecting it from the user. You can then change it like this, so that no matter what the person types, you convert it to small letter. Then what you want to compare it with, you also convert this one to small letter. So this J will be small letter. Something like yeah, so no matter how the input comes, all of them are going to be compared on small letter before you then maybe you now put your if statement. If U is equal to name. Or you can even just do it here so that it doesn't look over. Then you remove this or this. Anyhow you want to do it works. But the key thing here is when doing the comparison, you are comparing them as lower. So no matter what the user supplied, it will be matching it like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
There might be some questions you might need to think in this light to get it. If not, the next time someone put an input, the case is making it look as though it's not correct. So you can check it this way. Okay, so I think we have gone through the major topics for chapter 5. And what is remaining is for us to go and try out the exercises.
No consideration was made for string formatting.
No what?
I said no consideration was made for string formatting. Or we'll have a separate lesson for that.
Okay, I think we've been talking about string formatting.
I mean, using the format method.
Yeah. Let me just still touchlight it.
Okay.
Although it's not part of the chapter, but let's just still touchlight it.
Okay.
Oh shit. Hold on. So there are two common ways to format a string. So you can have you have the F string, which I feel like is the easier one to use. And then you have curly brackets like this. And you want to put, ST2 is John. So we have ST2. We inject it directly into our string as we are formatting it. You put a curly bracket and you can put more than one variable. My name is John, and I am from maybe your country. And let's just say the country was already defined above to be country is equal to South Africa. Of course, it should be in quotation. Right, so that, yeah. So maybe my country is South Africa, and my name, we've already put it somewhere up. Let me just bring it down so we see. Let us see. So my name is John. And just say detail. Detail is equal to my name is ST2, which is John, and I am from country, which is South Africa. This is one way to do that formatting. Another way to do it would be to use the dot format. Let me copy this string. We have to remove this.